So, this, I'm sorry, this is, I think, gonna be about Jeff Bezos and his qualities, and maybe I guess we go on with something else than his qualities. Looking forward to that. I hope you as well. Hope you had a great time listening to the podcast or watching the video. Yeah. Fucking shit. Can I? No. I'm very sorry, because the intro is broken somehow. I do not know how this actually happened to me once before. A little bit fucked up but yeah. What can I do? Not too bad. They're just way worse things. I'm actually complaining about stupid things like the intro not working, not having as much followers as you would want to have, even though these are just, very, very bullshit metrics, aren't they? Because the amount of followers could tell something. I do not want to lie, and I just having an audience you're just kind of referring to, or you're just giving something towards, something everybody wants as a content creator, wants as a creative person as well, I guess. At least, who is distributing his work as well. Everyone wants to have some kind of an audience, but like only living for the followers, which is actually something people do. People who are actually only having Instagram to just, gain followers. I don't understand this. You do not have a product, you do not have a company, you're not a creative person that wanna just distribute their shit. You're just willing to have more followers than maybe somebody else. And this is something that I do not quite understand. But yeah, I do understand this, why not? But I do not get it why people actually are doing it. But yeah, hello and welcome back to the next episode. Hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I hope you're as pumped as I am. I hope I didn't do the intro just before, because I just didn't remember. But yeah, we are going ahead with Jeff Bezos, as said in the intro. That unfortunately didn't work. We're going ahead with Jeff Bezos and what he's able to do, what he's good at, and whatsoever, which is quite interesting. Which is really, really interesting, I guess, and to see how these big minds maybe work internally, or what qualities they have, what characteristics they have, and so on. Actually gonna have to cut my hair in the next few weeks, I guess. The next point, if you're interested in a lot more points, I actually went through the whole thing quite the whole thing yesterday. So check out yesterday's episode if you really want to get the most out of the summary. Or I guess you should actually just go through every single episode that I did on this summary. But yeah, so energy and conviction. John Doerr, which is a person I don't know, walked into the door, and this guy with a boisterous laugh who was just exuding energy comes bounding down the steps. In that moment, I wanted to be in business with Jeff. Oh, I see. The energy Bezos had and all the positivity, I guess. I do really think being positive and having great enthusiasm and or energy for something really can lead you to a lot. I somehow feel like this. I don't know. I do just really know that people just understand other people to some degree, not fully, but they see when somebody is enthusiastic about something, when somebody has a lot of energy for something, and when somebody's just putting in a lot of time for something as well. You can notice somehow if you're talking to certain people. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna drink something. So that I'm not drying out. And I understand this. If someone just comes to you who is so fucking enthusiastic and so happy about what he's doing, or so excited about what he's wanted to, or what he's willing to achieve, they have energy, and you can somehow just be like, okay, I kind of feel like they're gonna do something about their problem or about actually just getting to their dream. And then why shouldn't you do business with them? But yeah, he was so convinced that that what he was doing was basically to work off God. Bezos on motivation. I'm very motivated by people counting on me. I like to be counted on. Yeah, I guess so. Regret minimization framework. On leaving D.A. Shaw in 1994, I knew when I was 80 I would never think about why I walked away from my 1994 Wall Street bonus. I knew I might regret not having participated in this thing called the internet that I thought was going to be a revolutionizing event. Was to be a revolutionizing event. Totally. I guess it's often like, you're regretting these things you didn't do. The problem there is, you could also just regret not staying at, well, no. I think you would just totally regret not going for the internet if you would have been just in Bezos' position. Missionary versus mercenary. Bezos said, which is a little bit, problematic with going through the summaries, just for the podcast listeners, because sometimes there are actually some direct speeches, and if I'm just reading over these things, they really sound crappy and really sound not good, and might even disturb you from actually your audio experience, or listening experience actually. So Bezos said, I would take a missionary over mercenary any day. One of those great paradoxes is that it is usually the missionaries who end up making more money anyway. I do have to be really honest, I do not know the difference between a missionary it's always great to have. So that is usually the missionary who end up making more money anyway. Like, I don't know if I'm getting this correctly, but I do somehow feel like the missionaries are actually the people who are just if I'm just saying, who just wanna work and who just enjoy the work, isn't it? And the mercenary just wanna win. If I'm understanding this correctly, I'm very sorry if not, but if it is like this, just kind of moving on with my thoughts, it makes sense. Because if you're just really only into winning, just like you're not actually liking the work you're doing, and you're just, into winning and being the best and, whatsoever, which is totally fine, There are people who just are willing to be the best and whatsoever. This is fine, and this could also just lead to great just achievements and, whatsoever. But if you do not like the work and the things you're doing all day long, until you come to this point of actually winning, then it's fucked up, I guess. At least at my point of view, and at least I feel like this somehow. And this is also something I hear people like Gary Vee always talking about. That you actually should like the process. And I actually went through a book called The Obstacle is the Way. I maybe have even just put the title into the description, so therefore you would actually be able to find the episode online. So if you're finding the video, you'll probably also you should also be able to find the podcast. Maybe just type in my name and then, The Obstacle is the Way or something like this. Or Ryan Holiday, because this is actually the author. Which is basically, I guess the problem there is the obstacle is the way is basically inspired by Marcus Aurelius' meditation, which is actually a book by the Rome Empire or Emperor. It's the Emperor, not the Empire, but the Emperor. So just Julius Caesar, I guess, or Julius Caesar, whatever you want to pronounce it in English, but which is very interesting, which is basically only about why what you're doing is actually the goal and not actually the goal itself. Like, the process of actually me trying to get to some audience, trying to get to something here online, either it be through just Instagram or the YouTube videos or the podcast that I'm doing. This is my process, and if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, every single day, then it is fucked up, because then I wouldn't just kinda be able to just stick to it and go through all the tough times that will come up. And I've been gone through a few, which were fucked up, totally were, and actually the last time, where the whole post scheduling wasn't quite there, and this was very, very stressful for me, to be really honest. It really stressed me out, because I really had to post every single post just manually, at least for Instagram, which was a lot of work. It's 10 posts a day, and quite 3 to 4 out of them are when I'm quite sleeping. So at least 2 of them, because the first one is in 2 in the morning, the second one 4 in the morning, then 8, 10, 12, and then every 2 hours, which is a lot, It's first of all a lot of work to actually put them into the software, to let them just actually be scheduled, and then they actually say, okay, no, you can't schedule them, or they just didn't, or they weren't scheduled. It's fucked up. It's totally fucked up. But yeah, I shouldn't complain. And Joy Covey, former CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer, personal wealth was never discussed or really thought about. I see companies these days where thoughts of exits are foremost in the minds of top management. This value will infect the decision making down to the smallest choice by the most junior employee. Jeff attracted people like me who really need to work on things they can internalize and adopt as mission, who poured their hearts and souls and best efforts into building Amazon. Jeff's style always read as completely poor, focused on the best outcomes for Amazon and our customers. Let's see. Who is the CFO of Amazon right now? It's Brian Oles, Chief Financial Officer, Amazon. He has even LinkedIn. What the fucking hell? Chief Financial Officer at Amazon.com. Brian Olsavsky from Seattle. He's working at Amazon for 17 years. 3 years as the financial officer, a vice president, internal retail. He has always been quite in high positions, I see. Whether it be in Amazon or Fisher Scientific. He has an MBA in finance and Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Interesting. Very interesting, but I would like to see what he is making. The funny thing is, if you really type in just Amazon, wait a second. Jeffrey P. Bezos, which is actually Jeff Bezos, didn't actually know his full name, is actually making 1.6 million a year. Or was making 1.6 million a year 2017. And most out of it is actually not from cash. And also not from equity, but from something else. The Brian T. Olsavsky, the SVP, which is second vice president, could it be actually, and chief financial officer, actually made 163,000 by 2017, which is $13K a month which isn't that much, to be really honest. It's not really that much, if you're just, viewing it as, I don't know, it's the biggest, one of the biggest companies in the world, or in the world, and he's not making that much, I don't know. Do not have that much clue of, the whole finance world and whatsoever. I hope that the microphone isn't actually picking up all the noises that my PC is just now making. But now we actually head into the management techniques section. Yeah, 6 pages and the narratives. Bezos dislikes PowerPoint for allowing people to hide between bullet points and avoiding complete expressions of thoughts. Instead, he requires people to write presentations in prose. New product releases require a mock press release to start with what the customer would see and work backward. I'll see. Reverse engineering is the keyword there. A meeting started with everyone reading the document for 15 minutes. High hiring bars. Each hire should raise the bar for the next hire, so that the overall talent pool is always improving. All participants in the hiring process give 1 of 4 ratings: strong no hire, inclined not to hire, inclined to hire, and strong hire. 1994 a hiring ad was: you must have experience designing and building large and complex systems, and you should be able to do so in about 1/3 the time that most competent people think possible. Yeah, this just really sounds like Bezos. You can really see that he's pushing all the people. He's really pushing all the people and all the boundaries, whether it be in terms of hiring, working, himself as a working force, and his employees, for sure. A senior interviewer called a bar raiser talks to the candidate last and makes a final judgment on the hire. These are employees who have proven themselves to be intuitive and recruiters of talent. The 2 pizza teams, which is actually quite, I do not want to say a famous quote, but it was a quote I've read from Bezos. Employees should be organized into autonomous groups of fewer than 10 people, such that they could be fed with 2 pizzas. So he actually do not wants to have teams that actually need more pizzas than 2. Yeah. So Bezos challenged teams to propose its own fitness function, a linear combination of metrics that showed its value generation, like the rate of marketing email opens, average order size generated. After some backlash in the awkwardness of setting one's own metrics, Bezos backpedaled on this. Communication is a sign of dysfunction. Teams should figure out how to communicate less and not more. Coordination among people wastes time, and the people closest to a problem should be solving them. Bezos wanted decentralization, autonomous working units, and independent decision making. He knew that the top-down management, as in Microsoft, slowed decisions and stifled innovation. Bezos hated seeing TVs mounted in a conference room as a sign of clumsy communication. He had them removed and left the mounts hanging for years, like a warlord leaving the decapitated heads of his enemies as a symbol. Gonna read this again, I'm sorry. Decapitated, which means just, without a head, or just only the head, So around 2003, Bezos stopped having one-on-one meetings with his reports, thinking they are more often filled with trivial updates and politics rather than brainstorming and problem solving. Meeting cadences or whatever. Operating reviews are done twice a year, over the summer and after the holiday season. Teams draw up 6-page documents spelling out their plans for the year ahead. Every doc contains a few tenets at the top, principles that guide the hard decisions. Once a week, on Tuesday, departments meet with managers to review data. The executive team questions every number and asks why things happen. Once a week on Wednesday, the weekly business review happens run by Wilkie. It's WILKE. 60 managers gather to review the departments, talk defects and forecasts. Bezos doesn't attend these meetings and doesn't have one-on-ones. Interesting. Prizes for embodying values. Bias for action. Just do it award. During a 2000 earthquake, as Bezos and Access were huddling under a conference table, someone pokes his head out, retrieves his laptop and checks to see if Amazon is still alive. Prices for embodying values. Was this actually an honest and true prize, or like an award? The Just Do It award? Like for someone actually just risking their life only to see if Amazon is doing well? He has incredible, I think, employees. I guess he really has. Lower prices for customers. Door desk price. Which is the door desk price. Looping. You see? How should I explain to all the people who didn't see the other episode? That's now a pain in the ass. No, actually, it's not that. It's not that hard, to be honest. Bezos' first table was actually a fucking door, like just a regular door you're having in your house. Like there is a door. I would like to just let you see, but just a door, like a regular door. And I guess it just means that everyone that's so fucking poor just could buy all the products. Basically, this is what I'm assuming. Looping executives' families when recruiting. Bezos wrote a CFO candidate and his wife a 2-page letter about the impact they could make at this juncture for the internet, throwing parties for long-lasting lieutenants like Shel Capeman and Rick Delsel, flying friends and family to Hawaii, and so on. Rituals. After the holidays, he takes time to think and read. Consistent chefism. Reputation of stories and principles is a calculated strategy. It pounds the drum around the principles that everyone in the company needs to embody. He often tells stories of Amazon's early days, everyone shipping books on the floor late at night and barely running the servers off the house's power. Oh no. Calling workers out on BS. Does this mean bullshit? I don't fucking know. In Holiday 2000, the VP, which is I think the vice president, isn't it, of customer service, assured Bezos the customer phone wait times were under a minute without offering proof. Bezos dials the service number over speakerphone and waits an interminable 4.5 minutes. Well, dog fooding services that will eventually be released to the public. Amazon has a history of spinning out services that were initially used only internally or by dog fooding products that are sold to the public. Which I think just, all the dog food services or dog food products were they actually just, initially created for all the employees? I don't know. In 2006, Amazon launches Fulfillment by Amazon. He had built such a good service that people were willing to pay us to use it. Yeah. Amazon teams use Mechanical Turk internally to review customer uploaded photos and check block view images. Engineering groups were told to use AWS while the service were still immature. Branding. Bezos insists on reporting of the company as Amazon.com. he saw the IPO as a global branding event. I don't fucking know what this actually was all about. The last few things, I don't know. Maybe it was valuable for someone out there, or interesting at least. And I do think, like, which is actually something I pointed out, I think, in the last episode. Actually, if you're having to do a presentation on Amazon for school or for university or whatsoever, use this fucking book. The timeline in the very first section of the book is just enormously detailed. It is just so incredibly detailed. Maybe it's even too detailed, because somehow actually getting boring actually, just, I don't know if you just need everything. Maybe you do, I don't know, you could, but I don't know. So miscellaneous Bessus idiosyncrasis. Whatever the fuck this is an unusual feature of a person. I do have to say, Alan Chang often uses words I don't fucking know. Yeah. So low celebrations. Early on, Bezos disliked when employees closely tracked the number of daily purchases. When I had its first 5,000 order day, Bezos rejected the party. There are a lot of milestones coming, and that's not the way I want to run things. During the IPO, which is, I don't know what an IPO is. Short for initial public offering. Okay. He asked employees not to over-celebrate the moment or obsess over the stock price. In January 2000, when Amazon posts its first profits, publicists wants to frame some positive new articles. Instead, Bezos wants to frame negative stories like the Amazon.bomb cover, so employees remain scared. Interesting. Star Trek fandom. Bezos was a fan of Star Trek from childhood, spurred by the Apollo 11 mission. When he left New York to start Amazon, he held a party to watch the final episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation. Temper. Bezos dislikes when an employee doesn't have the right answer, tries to bluff the right answer, takes credit for someone else's work, engages in politics, or shows frailty in the heat of battle. So he's also going for quite emotional intelligence, I guess, or it kind of sounds for me like the way. In a press conference announcing toy selection, Amazon has tables with piles of merchandise representing a broad selection. Bezos is unsatisfied with the size of the piles. Do you want to hand this business to our competitors? This is pathetic. I guess he's quite a tough boss, isn't he? I don't know. In response to an executive who requested business class flights, and that isn't how an owner thinks. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Well, but yeah, it is somehow dumb. Why would you just take business flights? They're just costing way too much, I guess. Or, like, I don't know. I don't know if just, Amazon as a company could just get a pretty great deal on them. In response to an executive I read that. If that's our plan, I don't like our plan. I don't need to go down and get the certificate that says I'm CEO of the company to get you stop challenging me on this? ? Are you lazy or just incompetent? Wow. I trust you to run world-class operations, and this is another example of how you are letting me down. After reviewing the annual plan from supply chain team, I guess supply chain isn't doing anything interesting next year. To a supply chain team causing software bugs leading to a lack of recognizing revenue, you are a complete fucking idiot. I have no idea why I hire idiots like you at the company. Paraphrased. In brackets. To a Kindle 2 presentation team, I don't know if you guys don't have high standards or if you just don't know what you're doing. Oh my god. When he gets an email of subpar customer experience, he forwards it to the responsible party with a question mark, single question mark. People know he's ready to explode, and they rush to solve and explain how it happened within a few hours. And this spreads downward into his lieutenants. Jeff Wilke, now CEO Worldwide Retail, also seems to explode at times. He had a daily conference calls with general managers and required them to know daily facts. How many orders had shipped, the number of trucks waiting outside. A manager started counting 1, 2, 3, and Wilke exploded. Okay, I don't know. Carl Raman, head of Hardline business, would yell at buyers if Amazon's prices were higher than competitors, or if they ran out of inventory. Can I have some of what you're drinking so I can feel good about your business too? He left within 2 years. Wow. So the head of hardline businesses would yell at buyers. That's just enormous. But I guess, what have I been reading actually? His temper. Okay, it was his temper. Yeah. I don't know. But the problem there is you're just really picking out all the worst things or all the bad things someone said. You could also do this with me. I just was a fucking idiot. Just, some years ago I was just a really piece of shit sometimes. I really was. I somehow was able to change to some degree. Just sounds so bad to me right now. But yeah, you could do this with every single person. But, with him it just sounds to be a little bit more, I don't know, severe somehow, because he's the owner of Amazon. He's the CEO of Amazon, the founder and whatsoever. And so he cannot do this. I don't know. There's so many, I guess. It's not okay. It totally isn't. Because you actually should take care of your employees. And I don't know. I would just like to be the 50th richest person on this planet, but have a great culture in my company. I would really like to have this. I don't know. For me, it's like my legacy somehow. I do not want to be remembered as the fucked up boss or the boss who was just a piece of shit. I don't want to be this. But yeah, this is actually again the end of the episode, as like the other episode that I recorded just before. I hope you got something out of it, and I still wish you the best health, wealth, happiness, and success. And yeah, remember your legacy. Remember how you are going to be remembered. And the last one, give back to the people and the world. With that being said, I'll see you the next time.